Imagine this. Right in the thick of historic events, revolutions, wars, and coups, there is an invisible force at play. A force you won't find in textbooks. A force whose name is whispered in the corridors of power. The Illuminati, the Freemasons, secret societies, they were there when empires fell and new nations were born. But who were they, really? Subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and get ready to discover what is usually hidden behind a veil of silence. This is a story that will make you see the past in a whole new light. Thousands of years ago, humanity was divided not only into rich and poor, rulers and subjects, but also into the initiated and the uninitiated. From those times came the idea that knowledge is power, and true power should not belong to everyone. That's how the first secret groups appeared. The priests of Egypt, the shamans of Siberia, the sages of the East. All of them guarded knowledge that was not meant for everyone. But the real secret societies, the kind we imagine today, began to take shape in Europe during the Middle Ages. One of the most mysterious and influential orders became the Freemasons. And although their modern image is associated with lodges, costumes, and rituals, their roots go back to ancient times, to the builders' guilds who guarded their secrets like treasures. These master stonemasons built cathedrals, castles, and temples, and with every stone, it was as if they embedded secrets into the very architecture. But how did a network that included kings, presidents, scientists, and bankers evolve from simple craftsmen? The answer lies in the transformation of knowledge. Over time, these builders' brotherhoods began to attract not only laborers, but also philosophers, mathematicians, and politicians. Freemasonry transformed into a spiritual and philosophical society, bringing together those who wanted to change the world while remaining in the shadows. They used special symbols, the compass and square, the all-seeing eye in a triangle, and columns. All of these are not just decorations, but signs understood only by the initiated. Each one of them is a message encrypted in architecture, paintings, and even on money. Take a look at the American dollar, and you'll see all the same symbols. Is it just a coincidence or proof of influence? But the Freemasons are only one part of the picture. In 1776, in Bavaria, a young professor named Adam Weishaupt founded a society that blew the minds of even his contemporaries, the Order of the Illuminati. Their goal was to eliminate tyranny, religious fanaticism, and corrupt authority. But the methods were secret. The idea was to infiltrate the government, the elite, the churches, and replace the old order with a new one. No revolutions, no posters, just invisible influence. In less than 10 years, the order spread throughout Europe. Among its members were politicians, writers, and aristocrats. And although it was officially banned as early as 1785, many are convinced it simply went underground. Since then, the word Illuminati has become a symbol of everything mysterious and powerful. They are accused of orchestrating the French Revolution, toppling monarchies, and creating new ideologies. Some see them as fanatics, others as saviors, and still others as manipulators holding the strings of the world. But is there any proof? Or is it all just a conspiracy theory? To understand the influence of secret societies, you need to study their methods. And the most important one is influence through the elite. The Illuminati and Freemasons never aimed for large numbers. Their strength lies not in quantity, but in pressure points. One influential king or minister is more significant than thousands of ordinary members. Secret societies operated like a virus in the system, penetrating to the very core in order to rewrite the rules. But why did they hide? The answer is simple. Any radical change is a threat to those already in power. And any secret society is always balancing between ideological pursuit and accusations of conspiracy. They created a parallel system of thinking, outside of religion, outside of politics, outside of the familiar. And for that, they were destroyed. History is full of examples. French Masonic lodges supported the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. But these ideas turned into executions and guillotines during the Revolution. In Britain, the Masons were suspected of organizing protests and even assassination attempts. In Russia, Peter the Great treated them with caution, seeing in them both intellectual strength and a potential threat. And in the 20th century, a new era began, the era of media and symbols. Now, influence was exerted not through the sword or decree, but through imagery, information, fear, and admiration. Conspiracy theories went viral long before the internet. But what if at least part of these theories is true? To figure out where fiction ends and truth begins, you need to ask yourself one simple question: who benefits from the secret? After all, throughout history, there have always been two forces at play, the visible power and the hidden one. We see the visible power, presidents, generals, leaders. But the hidden one, it most often looks like a coincidence. How do you explain the fact that the same symbols, triangles, all-seeing eyes, black and white checkerboard patterns, appear in architecture, religion, art, and even pop culture? Is it just a coincidence? Or are these signs that they leave for each other? It's like a secret language, the language of the initiated. A system where every detail matters, the direction of a gaze, the number of steps, the shape of a building. And if you know what to look for, the world will never be the same again. Take the symbol of the all-seeing eye, for example. It appears in Egyptian mythology as the Eye of Horus, a symbol of protection and wisdom. Later, the Freemasons adopt it, and then it ends up on the dollar bill. So, why? Who decided that this symbol should be on the money of the most powerful country in the world? The answer lies with those who were at the origins of the United States. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and many other founding fathers were Freemasons. For them, symbols were not just decorations, but tools of influence. They embedded philosophical and esoteric meanings right into the foundations of the country. Did they dream of a new world order, or did they simply want to create a society free from the old oppression? Since then, symbols have become a part of power. Corporations, banks, and show business started using them. The logos of the largest companies, from automotive to tech, contain occult shapes, geometry, and numbers. Why? Because these shapes influence the subconscious. Because those in the know believe that a symbol can transmit power. But let's get back to secret societies. The Illuminati are often accused of running the world, of supposedly creating central banks, controlling the media, and steering wars and revolutions. All of this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but if you dig deeper, you get an unsettling feeling. Too many things line up. Take a look at the 20th century. World War I, World War II. The creation of the United Nations. The formation of the European Union. Who was pushing the ideas of supranational structures? Who was saying that borders are an outdated concept? Who was working behind the scenes to build the architecture of a new world? Many people point to the closed meetings of the Bilderberg Club, the Trilateral Commission, and the Council on Foreign Relations. All of them are exclusive elite communities, not official governments, but shadow cabinets where global directions are discussed. And once again, among the participants are people whose biographies often overlap with Masonic or other brotherhoods. So why don't they talk about this openly? Because their power lies in being invisible. Because they fear the masses. Because once you show your hand, you lose your advantage. And also because, in the public consciousness, a secret society has become synonymous with evil. Just say the word and hysteria breaks out. People start shouting about a new world order, microchipping, and dystopia. Meanwhile, many members of such societies claim it's actually the opposite, that they are defenders of reason, science, and progress, that they fight against chaos and fanaticism, that they're not manipulating the world, but trying to save it from itself. So who are they really? Heroes in the shadows, manipulators, or just people playing an ancient game with special rules? One thing is certain, their influence is still felt today. Masonic lodges operate in many countries. People are still searching for the Illuminati in corporations and show business. Theories about them rack up millions of views on YouTube. Their symbols are sold on t-shirts and decorate album covers. And the more we try to understand, the deeper we go into the labyrinth. Because a secret society is not just an organization, it's an idea, a way of thinking where the truth isn't what you see, but what is hidden. And power isn't about giving orders, but about shaping the way people think. And maybe their main weapon is our distrust of the official version of history. To figure out where fiction ends and truth begins, you have to ask yourself one simple question. Who benefits from the secrecy? After all, there have always been two forces at play in history, the visible power and the hidden one. We see the visible power, presidents, generals, leaders. But the hidden power, most of the time, it just looks like a coincidence. How do you explain the fact that the same symbols, triangles, all-seeing eyes, black and white checkerboard patterns, show up in architecture, religion, art, and even pop culture? Is it just a coincidence? Or are these signs that they leave for each other? It's like a secret language, a language for the initiated. It's a system where every detail matters, the direction of a gaze, the number of steps, the shape of a building. And once you know what to look for, the world will never look the same again. Take the all-seeing eye symbol, for example. It appears in Egyptian mythology as the Eye of Horus, a symbol of protection and wisdom. Later, the Freemasons adopt it, and then it ends up on the dollar bill. So, why? Who decided that this symbol should be on the money of the most powerful country in the world? The answer lies with those who were at the origins of the United States. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and many other founding fathers were Freemasons. For them, symbols were not just decorations, but tools of influence. They embedded philosophical and esoteric meanings right into the foundations of the country. Whether they dreamed of a new world order or simply wanted to create a society free from the old oppression. Since then, symbols have become a part of power. Corporations, banks, and show business began to use them. The logos of the largest companies, from automotive to tech, contain occult shapes, geometry, and numbers. Why? Because these shapes influence the subconscious. Because those in the know believe that a symbol can transmit power. But let's get back to secret societies. The Illuminati are often accused of running the world, of supposedly creating central banks, controlling the media, and directing wars and revolutions. All of this sounds like a conspiracy theory. But if you dig deeper, you get an unsettling feeling. Too many things line up. Look at the 20th century. World War I, World War II, the creation of the United Nations, the formation of the European Union. Who was pushing the ideas of supranational structures? Who was saying that borders are an outdated concept? Who was behind the scenes building the architecture of the New World? Many point to the closed meetings of the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, and the Council on Foreign Relations. All of them are exclusive elite communities, not formal governments, but shadow cabinets where global directions are discussed. And once again, Among the participants are people whose biographies often intersect with Masonic or other brotherhoods. So why don't they talk about this openly? Because their power lies in being invisible. Because they fear the masses. Because once you show your hand, you lose your advantage. And also because, in the public consciousness, a secret society has become synonymous with evil. Just say the word and hysteria breaks out. People start shouting about a new world order, microchipping, and dystopia. Meanwhile, many members of such societies claim the opposite, that they are defenders of reason, science, and progress, that they fight against chaos and fanaticism, that they're not manipulating the world, but trying to save it from itself. So who are they really? Heroes in the shadows, manipulators, or just people playing an ancient game with special rules? One thing is certain, their influence is still felt today. Masonic temples operate in many countries. People keep searching for the Illuminati in corporations and show business. Theories about them rack up millions of views on YouTube. Their symbols are sold on t-shirts and decorate album covers. And the more we try to understand, the deeper we go into the labyrinth. Because a secret society is not just an organization, it's an idea, a way of thinking where the truth isn't what you see, but what is hidden. And power isn't an order, but a direction of thought. And perhaps their main weapon is our distrust of the official version of history. The Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, they didn't just observe the course of history, they intervened. And the most striking manifestation of this influence is the era of great revolutions. Let's start with the most famous one, the French Revolution of 1789. This storm swept away the throne, the church, the aristocracy, and changed the fate of all of Europe. Officially, the people rose up against tyranny. But behind the scenes of this revolution, other forces were at work. Many key figures, Jean-Paul Marat, Camille Desmoulins, Maximilien Robespierre, were connected to Masonic lodges. Masonic ideas, liberty, equality, fraternity, they became not just a slogan, but a battle cry. Masonic symbols, the pyramid, the eye, rays of light, found their way into the art of the revolution. But was everything really so sincere? Or was the call for freedom just a cover for the desire to destroy the old world in order to create a new one, controlled by their own? At the same time as in France, another revolution was brewing in young America, quiet but profound. American independence, 1776. The same symbols, the same ideas, the same figures. Benjamin Franklin, a well-known Mason, George Washington, Grand Master of the Masonic Lodge of Virginia. Most of the founding fathers were members of fraternities, and documents from that time are full of hints about the secret protection of the new republic. To this day, U.S. banknotes feature the eye in a triangle and an unfinished pyramid. Direct references to Masonic philosophy. But why? Because the United States was conceived as a project for a new world. A country founded not on blood and dynasties, but on ideas. But whose? And it goes even further. The revolutions of the 19th century in Europe. Italy, Germany, Poland, Hungary. Everywhere, names connected to secret societies keep coming up. Giuseppe Mazzini, the Italian revolutionary, founded the secret society Young Italy. He openly supported the Freemasons and dreamed of uniting Europe under the banner of reason and progress. Karl Marx, the author of the Communist Manifesto, also had contacts with circles close to secret societies. His ideas seemed radical, but were strangely well-funded and spread in the shortest possible time. And here a logical question arises. Why were ideas that threatened the old regime spreading so quickly? Who was helping them? Who was behind this? Some historians suggest that it was secret societies, with their connections, finances, and strategies that supported revolutionary movements. Not because they were left-wing or right-wing, but because they sought to reset the system, erase the old order, and start the world anew, built on new symbols, new rituals, and new elites. But their intervention did not always bring light. Sometimes it brought blood and chaos. Let's go back to France. After the revolution, the reign of terror began. Thousands of people were beheaded. The Jacobins, inspired by Masonic ideals, became their hostages. The idea of brotherhood turned into a dictatorship, freedom into the executioner. The Masons later distanced themselves from this period, but the harm had already been done. England, in turn, watched everything that was happening and was afraid. There were many lodges operating in the country, but the state imposed strict supervision. A law was passed regarding Masonic lodges, requiring them to register and be accountable. The royal family kept its distance, even though some members had also been initiated. This points to something important. Freemasonry was not always unified. There were radicals and reformers, philosophers and conspirators. Not every brotherhood wanted a revolution, but each one wanted influence. This is exactly where the strength and danger of secret societies lie. They can be anything: a platform for new ideas, a school for future leaders, or a shadow guiding the hand of history. For centuries, monarchies were a symbol of stability. Their legitimacy supposedly came from above, from divine right. But this was exactly what stood in opposition to the philosophy of the Freemasons and the Illuminati. The idea that power should belong to reason, not to blood. That's why secret societies became the natural enemies of the throne. In many European countries, this led to a covert confrontation. For example, in Russia, the emperors treated Freemasonry with extreme caution. Peter the Great studied Western society with interest and allowed the founding of the first lodges. But already under Catherine the Great, when Masonic circles became too influential and reached the elite, purges began. Later, under Alexander I and Nicholas I, attitudes toward them fluctuated between tolerance and repression. And yet, many prominent figures belonged to the Masonic lodges of Russia. Writers, generals, reformers. They spread the ideas of enlightenment, equality, and often revolutionary change. The Decembrists, who staged an uprising against Nicholas I, were closely connected with such societies. Although they were defeated, their ideas lived on all the way up to 1917. And now let's move to Great Britain. Unlike in Russia, here Freemasonry became almost official. British monarchs themselves headed the lodges, but with an important caveat. The English system of Freemasonry emphasized loyalty to the crown and the church. It was a different format, more loyal, controlled, and not as revolutionary. Thus, in different countries, secret societies took on different forms, from underground movements and persecution to honorary membership and almost open activity. But history has also seen darker turns. There are many theories that World War I was provoked not only by political conflicts, but also by a secret struggle among the elites. Masonic and occult circles in Austria-Hungary, Germany, and France were all closely connected to politics. Some researchers claim that the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the trigger for the war, was not simply an act of anarchy. Allegedly, he was targeted by groups who wanted to bring down the old Europe and start a reconstruction. Then came World War II, which seemed to be the era of ideologies, where everything is explained by Nazism, communism, and anti-Semitism. But even here, there are oddities. The top leadership of the Third Reich was actively interested in the occult. The SS created its own orders, inspired by ancient Germanic cults. Symbols, rituals, and esotericism, all of this became part of the state ideology. Some believe that the Nazis tried to create their own alternative to Freemasonry, a system where obedience replaces the search for truth. At the same time, Masonic lodges across Europe were destroyed. Hitler, Mussolini, Franco, all of them brutally suppressed the brotherhoods, seeing them as a threat to their power. But what a paradox. It was in the anti-fascist countries, especially the United States and Great Britain, that Freemasonry grew stronger. Many generals, ministers, and Allied intelligence officers were Freemasons. The war became not only a conflict between nations, but also, according to some, a duel between secret organizations. And then came the era after 1945, the time of the Cold War, secret diplomacy, and geopolitical games. And once again, exclusive clubs began to appear in the shadows. The Bilderberg Club, founded in 1954, brought together politicians, bankers, representatives of NATO, and the media, all behind closed doors. No protocols, no press. Its participants claim that the meetings are strictly informal. Critics, however, call it a shadow world government. Other organizations also emerged: the Club of Rome, the Trilateral Commission, the Davos Forum. All of them brought together the world's most powerful people, from presidents to billionaires. Officially, it's to discuss global issues. Unofficially, it's for coordinating policies, influence, and strategies. The Freemasons and Illuminati have faded from the spotlight. Their symbols have become memes, but their model of influence, it remains. Closed communities, elite access, playing the long game, all of that still works today. And maybe that's exactly why every time something strange happens in the world, a coup, a crisis, a pandemic, a war, people keep looking for answers in the shadows. Because history teaches us, behind the loud slogans, there are always those who whisper in the silence. Influence isn't just about weapons, money, and political power. In the 21st century, the main battlefield has become the mind, which means media, culture, and art. And it's precisely here that we once again encounter symbols, hints, and mysteries that lead us into the world of secret societies. We open music videos by popular artists and see familiar images: the eye in a triangle, checkerboard patterns, masks, rituals, handshakes. This has already become a cliché. The Illuminati are supposedly everywhere, from pop stars to Netflix movies. But the question isn't whether it's true. The question is, why? Mass psychology works simply. A repeated image becomes the norm. If millions of people see certain symbols from childhood, they stop noticing their meaning. This is the method of normalizing symbols of power, turning mysticism into fashion. But it all started long before YouTube and TikTok. Back in the 20th century, Hollywood became a stage for influence. Many directors, screenwriters, and producers belong to exclusive clubs whose roots go back to philosophical and even esoteric circles. Through movies, certain ideas were broadcast to people: a new world order, the fight against invisible evil, the cult of secret knowledge, the symbolism of initiation. Let's remember The Matrix, the choice between the blue and the red pill, awakening, a hidden reality, or The Da Vinci Code, a novel about Freemasonry, secret symbols in religion and art, or Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, a film supposedly exposing the elite and their rituals. This is not just an artistic device, it's the creation of a mythology that millions believe in. And now, music. Since the late 2000s, the internet has been flooded with theories that global pop stars are connected to the Illuminati. Beyoncé, Jay-Z, Rihanna, Lady Gaga, Kanye West. All of them have been accused of using occult symbolism. Video after video, fans would spot hands folded into triangles, one-eyed gestures, skulls, goat heads, and scenes reminiscent of rituals. Coincidence? Maybe. But when these images are repeated dozens of times in different forms, you can't help but feel like you're looking at a code, a cipher that only insiders understand. Some people claim it's just marketing, shock value for the sake of hype. But then why are these symbols always the same ones? Why do they match ancient Masonic and Illuminati symbols? The answer lies in the nature of influence. Real control is control over thinking. You don't need to control the army if you control emotions. You don't need to write laws if you shape desire. That's why secret societies were so interested in art, theater, architecture, and later, film and television. Through these, it's possible to subtly and imperceptibly instill values. Not by saying this is the truth, but by creating a context in which a person comes to the desired conclusions on their own. This is called framing, that is, creating a frame of perception. And that's exactly what we see in mass culture. Think about why viewers are shown images of secret gatherings, sacrifices, and elite rituals over and over again. On one hand, it sparks curiosity, on the other, it provokes fear. But in both cases, it creates the impression that this power exists and that it can't be resisted. Moreover, such images create a false sense of opposition. People start discussing music videos, movies, searching for signs, but they forget about real influence, money, information, access. The mystery turns into a show, and conspiracy becomes entertainment. Which means the danger is neutralized. People feel like they've exposed something, when in reality they're still inside the matrix. There is a myth that secret societies always operate from the shadows, destroying, manipulating, and disrupting order. But there is another, less obvious side, their contribution to the development of human knowledge. It's a paradox, but many of those labeled as conspirators were actually scientists, philosophers, and enlighteners. They founded universities, academies, and scientific societies. They drove progress forward, quietly, persistently, without fanfare. Let's take a look at the Freemasons. In the 18th century, they became not only a political force, but also an intellectual one. Their lodges were not just meeting places. They were centers of ideas, where the latest discoveries were discussed, books were translated, and manifestos were written. The participants included mathematicians, astronomers, lawyers, and architects. Isaac Newton, René Descartes, Goethe, Mozart. All of them were connected to secret societies or, at the very least, to their ideas. These people changed our view of the world. But interestingly, they saw science not just as the mechanics of formulas, but as sacred knowledge that needed to be protected and properly guided. The Freemasons believed in the order of the universe. Their symbolism is not just a compass and square, but a reference to the geometry of the cosmos. Everything that can be measured and constructed can be understood, and therefore can be controlled. That's why the Freemasons were actively involved in creating scientific academies, libraries, and publishing houses. In France, England, and Germany, entire universities were built on the principles of enlightenment that were born in secret gatherings. As for the Illuminati, their approach was more radical. Adam Weishaupt, the founder of the order, was himself a professor of law and philosophy. He saw religion as a means of control and wanted to replace it with science and reason. The Illuminati advocated for secular education and opposed dogmas. They promoted rationalism as a path to liberation. The order organized secret schools where they taught the elite a new way of thinking, ethics without religion, science without fear, politics without dictatorship. Their goal was to raise a generation capable of consciously governing the world. This might sound lofty, but behind it was a strategic calculation. The Illuminati understood, if you control education, you shape the future. And that's exactly why the churches and monarchies saw them as a threat. Because the most dangerous revolution is the revolution of thought. However, throughout history, the path to knowledge has always gone hand in hand with struggle. Every step forward is a blow to someone's power. Galileo, Giordano Bruno, Spinoza, all of them suffered for their ideas. And secret societies became a refuge for such people, where they could think freely, speak openly, and share their works. But at the same time, within these very brotherhoods, the idea of controlling knowledge began to take root. After all, if you keep a secret, you decide who is worthy of it. A hierarchy of the initiated emerges. Ordinary people read newspapers dedicated to the manuscript. And this is no longer just elitism, it's, informational power. Step by step, a system was formed, knowledge as a tool of control. Universities create scientific schools. Schools create the elite. And the elite shapes new culture, laws, and finances. Everything, starts with a thought. And a thought, to be continued, is born in silence. If science is the path of reason, then religion is the path of faith. And it was precisely between these two poles that an invisible battle raged for centuries, in which secret societies played their own special role. At first glance, it seems that the Freemasons and Illuminati were always against religion. But it's not that simple. Freemasons, for example, do not deny the existence of God. On the contrary, they call him the great architect of the universe. But this is not the God of any particular religion. It's an abstract principle, a force, a mind, something beyond human understanding. And that's exactly what frightens religious institutions. In Freemasonry, there are no dogmas, no single truth, no church as an intermediary. Each member seeks their own path, which means the church is no longer necessary. This became the reason for the hostility between the Catholic Church and the Masonic lodges. In 1738, Pope Clement XII issued a bull condemning the Freemasons. Since then, the Catholic Church has officially forbidden believers from joining lodges. The reason is that Freemasonry supposedly leads to relativism, destroys morality, and undermines the authority of the clergy. And indeed, the Freemasons really did read and discuss esoteric teachings, Kabbalah, alchemy, and Hermeticism. They studied ancient religions, compared rituals, searched for the hidden meaning behind ceremonies, but did all this outside the control of the clergy. Their temples were not made of stone, but of symbols. The Illuminati went even further. Weishaupt considered religion to be a tool of fear and manipulation. He wanted to completely replace it with the ethics of reason. His society operated like a school. Junior members listened, senior members taught, and above them all were unknown leaders who directed things but remained in the shadows. The system was structured like an order, but instead of faith, knowledge, instead of prayer, logic. But a person is not just reason, he seeks meaning. And that's exactly why philosophy and occultism have always been closely connected with secret societies. In the 18th and 19th centuries, there was a whole wave of secret teachings in which Freemasonry, Theosophy, and Rosicrucianism became intertwined. They created entire systems of initiation ladders, levels of consciousness, and mystical symbols, all for one purpose: to get closer to the truth hidden from the majority. Many ideas that today sound like esotericism were actually born there. The unity of all religions, the law of attraction, karma, reincarnation of the soul, energy centers, the influence of symbols on the subconscious. These concepts later made their way into literature, psychology, film, and became part of popular culture. And here a question arises: if secret societies really possessed ancient knowledge, where did they get it from? Some claim that they are simply the successors of ancient Egyptian priests, Babylonian mystics, Pythagoreans, and ancient Indian teachings. Others say that they created something new, inspired by myths. But in any case, they built an entire alternative worldview, parallel to the official religions. And that's exactly why they were feared. Because where religion ends, spiritual autonomy begins. A person who is not subordinate to the church, but possesses knowledge, is dangerous to those in power. He is his own priest, his own philosopher, his own architect of destiny. So, step by step, the Masons and Illuminati invaded what was considered forbidden: the mysteries of the soul, the meanings of rituals, the symbolism of antiquity. And each of their steps was a blow to a system built on blind faith. And it didn't stop there. Their ideas began to seep into psychology. Carl Jung, for example, actively used the symbolism of alchemy, archetypes, and mandalas. He spoke about the collective unconscious. These are concepts that echo Masonic and Hermetic theories. Secret societies demonstrated that the world is not just matter, but layers of meaning. And the one who understands how symbols, rituals, and ideas work controls not only themselves, but others as well. In a world where presidents come and go but corporations remain, there's a growing sense that real power doesn't belong to those on stage, but to those behind the scenes. Today, public politics is a show: microphones, slogans, debates. But alongside this, there is another reality where decisions are made silently, without cameras, without reporters. That's exactly where the ideas of secret societies have gone, to closed forums, clubs, and committees. One of the most striking examples is considered to be the Bilderberg Club. Founded in 1954, it brings together the world's elite every year: presidents, ministers, bankers, media owners, and heads of intelligence agencies. Everything takes place in complete secrecy. No press, no recordings, only the participants and their conversations. This is exactly how the true Masons of the new era operate, not through symbols, but through access. Being in the room where the future is shaped, that's what truly matters. And it doesn't matter whether they call themselves Masons, Illuminati, or just a group of interested parties. The next level is international organizations: the UN, the World Bank, the IMF, the WTO. Their decisions shape the reality of nations, but who influences their agenda? Who writes the reports, prepares the numbers, develops the strategies? Often, these are experts from think tanks funded by major foundations. And these foundations, in turn, are controlled by financial dynasties. The Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Soros, BlackRock, Vanguard, names that sound like they're straight out of a conspiracy theory, but they actually reflect a real concentration of capital. For example, two investment funds, BlackRock and Vanguard, own shares in almost all of the world's largest companies, from pharmaceuticals to social networks. Is a financial web that spans the entire planet. It doesn't need slogans, only numbers. Money is no longer kept in chests. It's in algorithms, stock exchanges, and derivatives. And whoever controls the finances can control countries without ever leaving their chair. Now, let's talk about politics. Elections usually give people the illusion of choice. But the real battle is fought over the minds of campaign managers, analysts, and strategists. That's where it's decided what the agenda will be, who gets airtime, which topics are brought up, and which ones are buried. If you look at election campaigns in different countries, you'll notice the same techniques, slogans, even color schemes. Why is that? Because they're all created by the same consultants, trained at the same schools, members of the same networks. This is the Freemasonry of the 21st century. It's not about rings and rituals, but about think tanks and networks of influence. An invisible brotherhood of those in the know. The Illuminati as a symbol have become a meme, but their model of governance remains. The goal is not to seize a country, but to seize meaning. Not the army, but the agenda. Not resources, but trust. Because the real elite today aren't those in power, but those who control what people talk about. YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, Netflix, these aren't just entertainment, they're tools for shaping opinions. Trends aren't random. They're the result of work by hundreds of analysts who know what should be said and how. Long, agonizing cries from the grandpa echoed through the room. It's the same as in Masonic rituals. The initiated rule over the uninitiated through symbols, meaning, and form. Welcome to the new era of power, where the war is not for territory, but for data, not for oil, but for information about you. Once, control meant armies, fortresses, and railroads. Today, it's access to your search queries, movements, interests, and emotions. And you willingly give all of this up yourself in exchange for comfort, recommendations, likes, and quick access to content. Digital surveillance has become an invisible shackle that no one even tries to hide anymore. Our phones, bank cards, smartwatches, TVs, and even refrigerators, all of these are tools for collecting information. And the main thing is, no one asks for your permission. Everything is wrapped up in a user agreement that we never actually read. Secret societies of the past built archives, collected manuscripts, and searched for keys to control. Their descendants in the digital age have built algorithms that know more about you than you do yourself. They don't read your thoughts, they shape them. Want an example? You think you decided on your own to watch a certain video, buy that sweater, or travel to that city. But in reality, you're just responding to prompts that were built into your digital path. And every choice you make is predictable, because you are a digital profile made up of habits, reactions, and patterns. Who creates these algorithms? Who decides what you see in your recommendations? It's not just engineers, it's engineers of reality, the modern digital elite, people you don't know, but whose decisions shape your worldview. And if in the past, power hid behind the mask of a brother builder, today it hides behind the interface. Artificial intelligence has also joined this game. With each passing month, it becomes more accurate, faster, and more sophisticated. It analyzes the behavior of billions of people, predicts reactions, and assists governments, corporations, and intelligence agencies. And no matter how much it may seem that AI is just another tool, it is becoming a new intermediary between humans and reality. People are already asking AI how to live, what to believe in, and who to vote for. Its opinion, algorithmically refined, is increasingly replacing personal judgment. And here the main question arises. If the secret societies of the past sought to control thoughts through symbols and rituals, isn't AI their continuation in a new digital form? A machine that knows what you will think tomorrow is not just power. It's the anticipation of your will, control before you even make a decision. Add to this digital currency a social credit system and biometric passports. And what we get is the architecture of a new order where control is total, yet no one feels like they're in a cage because everyone has agreed to it voluntarily. It sounds frightening, but that's exactly where the elite's skill lies, making control invisible, voluntary, even desirable. And this is the highest form of power, the one that all secret societies have aspired to, from the priests of Egypt to the architects of Silicon Valley. Symbols have been replaced by screens, passwords by fingerprints, rituals by likes. But the essence remains the same. Whoever controls information controls people. So, we've traveled the path from ancient lodges and philosophical orders to the digital age, where knowledge has become a commodity and attention a currency. But the main question remains, where is all this leading? The world is changing faster than ever before. And these changes aren't random. They seem coordinated. Unknown figures who never make it into the news feeds are the ones deciding what will become the norm tomorrow. When the Freemasons gathered in their lodges, they dreamed of building a new world. When the Illuminati created their order, they wanted to destroy the old ways and replace them with the rule of reason. And today, who is in control of this legacy? The answer is unsettling. We don't have the answers. Only fragments, only hints, only a chain of coincidences from which everyone must draw their own conclusions. We are being prepared for a new kind of society, completely transparent, predictable, and controlled. States are turning into platforms, citizens into data, freedom into a service, and individuality into a product. Instead of passports, biometrics; instead of money, numbers on a screen; instead of rights, the terms of agreements you haven't read but have already accepted. And all of this comes under the guise of convenience, safety, and progress. But behind every convenience hides a surveillance mechanism, behind every algorithm, a behavioral model, and behind every interface, a new form of dependency. If in the past the hierarchy of secret societies was built on initiation, today it's built on access to information. The initiated are those who understand how the system works. The uninitiated are those who just keep scrolling through their feed. The Illuminati have become a symbol, the Freemasons, a myth. But their methods live on. Control through symbols, management through information, power through knowledge. That's exactly what we see today. Whoever owns the data shapes the economy, politics, and the agenda. Whoever controls the algorithms controls society. Whoever creates meaning rules the world. But a key question arises. What if this isn't a conspiracy? What if this is the natural evolution of power? Maybe the drive for control, for structuring chaos, for creating divine order isn't evil but simply human nature. In that case, all secret societies are just a reflection of our own essence. The desire to understand, to dominate, to manage. Which means the future isn't a threat, but a choice.